The rain lashed violently against the windows of the sprawling Briarwood estate as Eleanor Voss adjusted the lace on her dinner table. The room was immaculate, a cavernous hall adorned with crystal chandeliers and tapestries depicting long-forgotten family triumphs. Tonight was to be a reunion, a chance to mend the fractures in the Voss bloodline. Eleanor, a woman of unyielding pride, had personally orchestrated the gathering. Yet, beneath her steely resolve, a knot of unease coiled in her stomach. The first to arrive was James, her estranged son, with his timid wife, Clara. Then came Margaret, her bitter younger sister, followed by Thomas, her rebellious nephew. Greetings were curt, with forced smiles exchanged like counterfeit coins. The atmosphere was stifling, but Eleanor was determined to soldier on. As the storm raged outside, the dinner began. The clinking of silverware echoed through the hall, a brittle soundtrack to the strained conversation. It wasn't until the third course that Clara, her fork hovering mid-air, asked the question that silenced the room. Who invited him? All heads turned toward the end of the table, where a figure sat, an impeccably dressed man in an antiquated black suit, his pale fingers curled around the stem of a wine glass. His face was unremarkable, almost frustratingly so. His features seemed to shift under scrutiny, making it impossible to describe him in detail. He smiled, a thin, polite curve of the lips. "I assumed he was one of yours," James said, frowning at his mother. Eleanor's face tightened. "I have no idea who this is." The guest dabbed his lips with a napkin and spoke, his voice smooth as silk. "I apologize for the confusion. I've been part of this family for a very long time." His words sent a shiver through the room. Eleanor's sharp gaze bore into him. "And what, exactly, do you mean by that?" The guest's smile widened. "All will be revealed in time." As the courses progressed, the guest began to weave himself into the conversation. He spoke with unsettling familiarity about the family's history, recounting tales from decades, no, centuries, past. He mentioned Eleanor's late husband by name, described the childhood home James had barely remembered, and even teased Thomas about a recent indiscretion that no one outside the family could possibly know. "How do you know that?" Thomas snapped, his face pale. The guest tilted his head, his expression one of amused innocence. "It's my business to know." The tension in the room grew unbearable. Margaret, always quick to anger, slammed her glass down. "Eleanor, what kind of game is this? Did you hire someone to humiliate us?" Eleanor's lips thinned. "I did no such thing." "Perhaps it's best if I take my leave," the guest offered, rising to his feet. But the way he said it, with a knowing glint in his eye, made everyone silently wish he wouldn't. After dinner, Clara wandered the mansion, her unease growing. She found a gallery of old portraits, the faces of the Voss lineage staring down at her. At the end of the row, she froze. There, in a painting dated 1863, was the guest. He stood among a group of dour-faced men, his expression the same serene smile he had worn at dinner. A hand gripped her shoulder. She spun around, stifling a scream. It was James. "What's wrong?" he asked. She pointed to the painting, but the guest's figure was gone. The space he had occupied was now a blank void, the paint faded as if erased by time. Back in the dining room, Thomas had drunk too much and decided he'd had enough. "I'm leaving," he declared, grabbing his coat. "In this storm?" Eleanor asked, her voice sharp. He ignored her and strode out. Minutes later, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. The family rushed to the garden, finding Thomas's lifeless body sprawled among the roses. His face was frozen in terror, his eyes wide and unseeing. The guest appeared behind them. "A tragedy," he murmured. "But perhaps not unexpected." Margaret rounded on him. "Who are you? What have you done?" "Who I am matters little. What I am is a reckoning." The family retreated to the drawing room, locking the doors. Clara revealed the painting, her voice trembling. "He was there. In the portrait. But now he's gone." Eleanor's face went ashen. "It can't be. It's him." "Who?" James demanded. Eleanor's voice faltered as she revealed the dark truth. "He was one of us, our blood, our kin. But greed and fear twisted the hearts of his own family. One stormy night, in this very mansion, they turned on him. They chained him to the cold stone walls of the cellar, their faces cold and merciless. With cruel blades, they carved deep into his flesh, symbols of betrayal and silence. His screams echoed through these halls, but none came to help. Blood stained the floor beneath him, pooling in dark, sticky rivers. Betrayed and broken, he bled out alone. The last thing he saw was the faces of those who once called him brother and sister, now his executioners. In his dying breath, filled with agony and fury, he swore a curse that would bind his restless spirit to this mansion and to every descendant of this cursed family. The guest's eyes flared with cold fire. "Betrayed, buried, forgotten, no. I am the nightmare born from your blood, the debt that will never be paid. Every last one of you will suffer. This house remembers. And so do I." One by one, the family members vanished in a crescendo of supernatural horror. Margaret was the first. Her reflection in the glass twisted and began pounding against the surface, screaming for help. As she stared in frozen terror, her own body was dragged backward into the mirror, her flesh rippling like water as the glass absorbed her. Her muffled cries echoed from every reflective surface before fading into silence. Clara clung desperately to James, her eyes wide with panic. But then, her own shadow twisted and slithered away from her body like a living, malevolent creature. It coiled tightly around her, plunging into her chest. Her skin cracked like brittle porcelain as her body convulsed violently and shattered into shards of glass. Those fragments dissolved into a swirling mist that vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only the faint scent of burnt lavender and the echo of her fading scream. James could only watch in mute horror. James's eyes glowed with a ghostly blue light. His body levitated, his limbs jerking unnaturally as though pulled by invisible strings. A distorted, disembodied voice spilled from his mouth, screaming words in a language no one understood. With a deafening crack, James's body crumbled into ash that swirled in the air before vanishing entirely. The air grew heavy, pressing down on Eleanor like an unseen force. She turned to flee, only to find the walls stretching away endlessly, the room transforming into a grotesque labyrinth. The guest appeared before her, his face now a hideous amalgamation of the family members he had claimed. Eleanor's screams echoed as she was lifted into the air by an unseen force, her body glowing faintly before disintegrating into a rain of golden light, leaving the room in eerie silence. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. He leaned close, his face grotesquely distorted. "Because I was forgotten." The lights extinguished, and Eleanor's scream was the last sound in the mansion that night. Days later, the mansion was found abandoned. On the dining table sat a single place setting, pristine and untouched. In the gallery, the guest's figure had returned to the painting, his smile wider than ever. And on the wall, scrawled in crimson letters, was a message. The forgotten never forgive.